Public school education. This is a type of glorified concentration camp I would never suggest subjecting any living creature to at any point in time, especially if you love them. The first public school was introduced in 1635. I'll stop there. This was about the time the American slave trade began. I'll continue. This was an effort to create a basic structure in which different minded children were subjected to the exact same curriculum in which they were left no choice but to work with. An effort to concentrate the collective knowledge of mankind and expect children to remember it all. This would create a basic and average education for one generation of Americans that consists of English lessons, methods of family, church lessons, lessons on how community works, and workforce apprenticeship. It sounds like a good idea, but it turned out to be a complete failure. At the time, it was common for a mind-wandering child to be hit with an instrument or a stick. This would create an environment where fear was a form of control. Considering the fact that no one was correct in those days, this would leave this generation of children to pass these lessons on to the next generation. The curriculum these children were taught was beneficial, a beneficial set of principles. However, no one had the capacity to peacefully teach a handful of children that fit their individual learning capabilities on a personal level. Hence all the hitting. As the country grew, so did the individual schools in the school districts. Now we live in the year 2021. Our school funding is distributed by federal tax revenue to each state, and each state decides how much revenue each district is owed. A school these days is basically just a building that's close to your house. This building has adult strangers in it. These strangers are people that have been approved by a state you don't trust to educate your kids on things that you don't agree with, and they waste 8 hours a day for 12 long years of their life growing up side by side with children being raised by people who you know as people who do despicable things at home. Genius. What a groundbreaking idea this is. Considering the rise in unemployment, I would say that most parents these days just use public school as a glorified babysitter, with the benefits of a little 2+2. A part of the school board's job is to organize and distribute tax revenue accordingly. Considering how much of a headache it would be to be a teacher, I would say not only do these people genuinely care about the child's well-being and education, but I would say they also need a massive raise. But when a huge grant is given to the school, most of the time they use it for a new paint job or nicer looking books or faster computers, and occasionally if there's some pocket change left over, the teachers might get a bump up in their pay. Given the fact that our curriculum has failed the entire world, I would say that they may as well use these grants to hire professionals who teach psychology and finance. That way, the next generation of parents have the higher ground in decision-making skills than the previous line of generations thought they did. Our children are the future. We're comfortable at home now, sitting in our air conditioner, watching our favorite show, and scrolling through social media, but this will come to an end. Zeitgeist is defined as the defining and average spirit or mood of society at a particular point in time. The zeitgeist now would be entirely different if there was no public school system. I couldn't say if it'd be a good or a bad one, but I definitely can say without a doubt it would be much different. When a class of 100 children grow up together, that creates a relatively average zeitgeist across the board, making it incredibly difficult to maintain your child's happy spirit. Well, public schools teach kids how to have pride in a fictional cartoon character that represents the school's marginally good sports team. Other schools are in rival of one another, and that creates sort of a mild gang mentality. I suppose the idea behind that is to create a competitive mindset, but the kids angrily slap hands as a show of good faith. It's mostly a pride thing for the coach and for the school. That's why they have so many fancy golden trophies set up in a showcase. It's because that's what they are, a bunch of showcases. It'd make more sense to me that parents would pull their kids out of school before their happy spirit's completely ruined. If we can take the time to reflect on why our child is so happy all the time, we might just be able to reconnect with our childhood and join them in what brings them joy. Instead of seeking after your pleasure, figure out where your child's source of happiness comes from and join them in that. This will create a better bond and a relationship with them, and we can teach them how to be safe in this cruel world, and they can teach us how to be happy in it. We have to surround ourselves with happy people and seek a new source of pleasure, like the joy of helping others in their time of need. The local churches usually host food pantries that would feed millions of Americans every day. I'd personally start there. It's a good idea. This will ultimately create a new butterfly effect in society that'll last for generations to come. Homeschooling could be the right answer for your child because exposure to the same environment that ruined your childhood will do the same for them. At home, your child could learn from you, the parent, who only wants best for them, and what's best for everyone is learning how to love each other. The only thing they'll learn from a public school is how to be subjected to social conditioning. They will learn how to be just like everyone else. Loving everyone and everything around them is a way to create an emotional cushion, to make you emotionally indestructible, and it does good for others. This will create a loving world. But to do this, I believe this journey starts at home with you. To make the world a better home, we must first make our home a better world. So seek wisdom from somewhere, learn what love truly is, and apply it every day, every chance you get.